Okay, so we get back into it. While we were off, I've handed the witness what we've marked as Exhibit 52, a one-page document. It says misinformation at the top. Exhibit 52 was marked for identification by Mr. Sullivan. I'll ask you, Miss Cooper, can you tell me what this shows? This Exhibit 52? This shows a screenshot of my post that said, go to my likes, and it says, this post has been deleted. It was a screenshot that was shared to the close friends of the Instagram page. So somebody in her close friends on the Instagram, y'all peep game what he just said. It was sent and shared to the close friends on Instagram. All right, and then it says, well, that no, no, let me stop lying. Let me stop lying. That was Milagro saying that. So let's retract that. That was Milagro saying that part. Okay, let's continue. Question. All right. So we looked before at this tweet, right? Milagro. Uh-huh. That said, go to my likes, y'all. Uh-huh. And you took a picture of it. Screenshot of the tweet. Uh-huh. Saying go to my likes and then sent it somewhere else, not on Twitter. And then here go Milagro. No. So what happened was I did a show the next day, I believe, talking about the whole situation. And from my reference, I put this in my close friends for me to go look at it, like while streaming live, so I can reference it. All right. So who was in the audience for this Exhibit 52? Not the original tweet. This screenshot, Miss. Right. It's okay. And it says Milagro. Yeah, my close friends has me in it. So I have two Instagram pages. I have Milagro's. Okay, here we go. I have Milagro Gramz and my blog page. And so I am the only person in the close friends on both pages because I use my close friends to post things that I'm going to want to talk about on my show. So I'm the audience. So I'm the what she mean by that? I'm the audience of both papers. And then the question. So by doing this, you were sort of sending it to yourself. Milagro, like bookmarking it, so to speak. Question. And were is close friends a category on social media? Milagro. Yes, close friends is a category on Instagram where you can add whom you wish to see private things. It's not a public. Got it. Okay, and you have close friends on Instagram? Every user has an option to use close friends. Got it. And in your case, did you exercise that option to add people to your close friends? Now, I want y'all to peep game. Do y'all not recall? Now, this is my opinion. Maybe y'all know. If some of y'all were there, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. This is just my opinion, right? I'm not saying it's being factual. I'm just talking. Do y'all not recall her saying that she had people on her Instagram close friends? Right. Okay, let's continue. She says she just added herself. Question, right. The only person in there is you, Milagro. Yeah. And so you are saying you took a screenshot of the go to my likes tweet. Uh-huh. And sent it to yourself. I posted it on the blog page, yes. And the post close friends. So when you did that, would anybody besides you see it? No. So you did send it to yourself effectively. Does anyone else have access to this close friends? She said no. Question on Instagram? She said no. It's just literally you see the bars at the top. It's like a story, so it only stays up for a certain amount of time. So it literally is just a post, and I'm the only one that can see it. And what was the purpose of doing that? Because the next day after everything happened on the internet on June 8th, I wanted to discuss the situation, so I posted it to be able to reference it on my show. And was it going to be there the next day or does it go away? It says no. It goes away after 24 hours. That's true. So, how would that help you the next day? I mean, were you afraid you were going to forget that you tweeted go to my likes the day before? No, it had been deleted. The post had been deleted, so it didn't exist anymore. So the only way they cause would see is from a screenshot. That's why I posted the screenshot, because when I was talking about it, I could go back and show them what I originally said. It says, "Oh, I see." And then she says, "Yeah." And then he says, "And did you do that?" She says, "Yes." He said, "And so when was that? The next day?" Milagro says, "I believe so." All right, I got it. Okay. So as part of talking about the video the next day, the situation more so, yeah. All right. What in your mind on June the 8th was the situation, Milagro? The situation was that the idea Megan was tied to the tape, well, tied to the tape, not necessarily if it was her or focusing on the tape itself. It was more so the fact that this was a topic at all. Question. You get to just say, maybe she did, maybe she didn't. I don't know, but let's talk about it. Milagro, you speak about trending topics. I mean, like I said, question. Even if it's a flat out lie, if it's trending, we'll talk about it. I'll spread the lies because it's trending. Milagro. Well, it's not about spreading any narrative. It's not about being here or there. It's just about the fact that someone of who was a lot of notoriety is involved in something. And because of the great interest in her, people want to discuss it. Question. But when you say involved in something, you include they actually did it, or somebody completely made it up and said they did it. For you, those are two things to talk about the same way, right? You don't care if it really happened. Here go Milagro. That's not true. The way that she went to stuttering. It got the little slash marks that she stuttered in the question. You will still talk about it without knowing that. You don't need to confirm it before you start talking about it. And then here go Milagro. There are some instances where, depending upon the situation, you may speak about it. Some things are so outlandish that you don't. But because I believe Megan to be promiscuous, and I feel like it was very possible it was her. So to me, when it was brought to my attention, I felt like it was likely enough that it could be her, that it was worth mentioning, that this is a conversation online. Likely enough? Okay, is that 50-50? Milagro. I couldn't give you a percentage, but based on her raps, and she has asserted that she loves sex, and she's very sexual and stuff like that, I thought it was possible that it could be her. Question. Because everyone who thinks that way or is that way puts their stuff out on the internet. Like I said, they're naked pictures. Megan, well, this is Milagro. Megan to me is different because she's very open and a lot of times is sanctily clad and bending over and twerking and doing a lot of suggestive things. So once again, it wasn't far fetched that it was possible. Question. You were willing to take the risk that if it was fake and it got out there, you promoted it a little bit. She's a celebrity. Tough. Milagro. No, I do not feel as though I promoted it. And like I said, for me, my focus was more on the situation itself, not the video. So does this seem like, in my opinion, does this sound like biased reporting then? Because in any other time, you have been talking about this chick every other day or damn near every goddamn day, right? Okay, let's continue. Question. Do you think you are in this category of famous people where people should be free if there's a deep fake porn video of you to say, hey, it could be, hold on, let me scroll. It could be her. Pass it around. Go to my go look at my Discord. Let's have a discussion about whether she really did it. She went to stuttering again. Here go Milagro. I under no circumstances liken myself to a celebrity like Megan. She's leagues ahead of any type of notoriety that I have. Here go question. But you think at a certain level of celebrity, fake, deep fake porn videos are just The cost of being out there? Well, what I will say is, even at my level of notoriety, there are a lot of conversations about me I wish people wouldn't, but they have, but they do. Once you get enough attention, it happens, unfortunately. Okay. And you think that just life that includes deep fake porn videos? And it says, I think that celebrity culture has a lot of different layers to it, and it's unfortunate what people are interested in. Question: and are you contributing to the more negative version of today's culture, or a more positive version by doing deep fake porns? I would say more positive. Bitch, where the fuck are you positive about any motherfucking thing? Oh, that's my opinion. Let me continue, y'all. You think it's positive to culture and our national conversation to circulate deep fake porn videos? Mrs. Diction. Objection. Mischaracterizes the phrase, the witness. I do not feel as though I promoted any deep fake video. So for me, once again, it's about the topic. So the way that I would navigate that conversation is bring it up. And then I would discuss why I think that's compromising and why young women maybe should not do things like that or maybe not get themselves filmed. I always try to find a way to bring it back to the community and have a talk about what's happening in the culture. Question, right? Okay, rough world for young women out there. Miss Hayapetian, could we please pull up the document, the audio title 61A? Oh, see, they finna bust her ass again. Let's get into it, y'all. So this is me, and this is 51B. Miss Hypatia. Uh-huh. Technician, all right. Ready to share whatever you like. So they showing exhibit 51A and 51B. Okay. Before we start that, I want to ask you, Miss Cooper, have you, I know you said that even at your level celebrity, you have to put up with some things. Have you ever been depicted in a deep fake in a sexual way, to your knowledge? Milagro, I have, not in the video, and then here it go, like a still photo. Milagro. So someone actually took photographs of me and my children and put them on Craigslist ad and accused on a what? Craigslist. Okay. And they said that I would perform sex acts for a price. And so I had to call the police and file for get it out, solicitation of minors. So I've had a situation that was unsavory. Yes. Question. And when was that? Milagro. Maybe 2019-ish? Question. Okay. And someone put a picture of you and your children? Yes. On Craigslist and said you can have sex with these people for a price? They said that I will perform sex acts in front of my children for a set price. And they listed other things, services, and put a price to it. How did you find out about it? People brought it to my attention. Okay. And you went to the police? Yes. And what happened? I filed a police report. Okay. Did you did you believe what was going on here was criminal? Yes. Why? For certain, my children were in an ad dealing with things, something sexual. Okay, and it wasn't true? No. And what did the police do? They took the report, it's social media, so I don't know if they went and got the guy. I don't know what happened after that. I just know that I reported it. I got the report number, a police officer came out, and all of that. I did what I could. Uh-huh. And you never found out who did it? I know who did it. Yes. Who you know did it? I gave the police their name. Oh, yeah. I went online and looked and I investigated and I found out who it was. And who was it? I only know his handle. His name was Breezy, which stands for BRZY. I don't know him personally. It says Breezy, BRZY? Yes. And as part of that, did you find out anything more about Breezy? It says Breezy went to a blogger, and then this is what how I found out. By the public, the person went to Tasha K that we mentioned earlier and left a comment and said there's a YouTuber in a situation with her kids, something of that nature. You know, up with me, basically. So I sent the message to the content creator in an email, and I told her you should be mindful because I would be pursuing, I'll follow up with the police. This person is not being honest, and run that story at your own risk, basically. Because if you do, then you are asserting something that's not true, and I'll do what I need to do necessary after that. Any question? So you've been on the other side of this same situation. People are talking about putting things out there that you say is untrue, right? Yeah, I have. And I didn't understand it. Okay, so yeah, I have. So question, and I didn't understand it. Are you saying the person involved in the sex with in front of your kids' ass is the same person who posted the Meg video? The can guy? No, not at all. Oh, Breezy? The person Breezy? Yes. You didn't tell me somebody else was attached to it, no? So what are you talking about? We're talking about the situation with my children, me and my children. Yes. It says that's only concerning Breezy. Okay, and that's an internet name for a person you don't know, right? Is there some other person involved in this? Not to my knowledge. It was just that person. Question. But who was? You said somebody was going to post it, and you said if you do that, oh, a blogger named Tasha K. And it says all right. Why is that name familiar? Is that the person that it came up earlier about the Cardi B defamation case? She's the one that got sued for defamation. Okay. And she was going to post the video, the Craigslist video or the Craigslist ad. I couldn't say. All I saw was she reached out. She said that he reached out to her publicly. I didn't see her. She wrote back and said, "Email me" or something of that nature, which is to me signal that she was interested. So that when I emailed her and I said, "You don't know what you're stepping into, and I'll be, getting forward with the police," something of that nature. Question. All right, and the her and what you just testified is Tasha K. Uh-huh. So somehow you became aware that she was in touch with Breezy. Uh-huh. About the video involving your family or about the ad. About the ad? The Craigslist ad? Yes. And on social media, you reached out to Tasha K and said, is fake? VIA email. VIA email? Uh-huh. Did you say it's fake? I didn't know if I would have said it's fake, but I definitely let her know that there's no truth to this person's claims and I will be moving forward. So, what does that mean? How did she interpret that? What did you want her to take from that, Milagro? I wanted her to not platform that information because, once again, this is stepping into territory where this is solicitation of a minor and what it was looking like to me because I had asked around, like, what I can do because I wanted to take action. And someone told me, that could be solicitation of a minor. So that's when I reached out to the police. And when they told me that, I told her, listen, I will be moving forward. So if you involve yourself in this, understand I'm not going to just sit by. I'm going to move forward. So, but what does that mean, move forward? Bring charges? That means going to the police and trying to do whatever I can to stop this. Oh, here go the question. Cause it's painful for you and your family, right? Here go Milagro. Children shouldn't be involved. It was just ridiculous. Question. Even if it wasn't your children, it's a fake sexual thing being put out there, right? It's not true. Right, it's not true. Lies about who you are that way. Yeah, it's a lie. Milagro. Uh-huh. And you were very bothered by that. Yeah. Milagro is disgusted by it, of course. Question. You wanted to bring criminal charges if you could. Uh-huh. And this Tasha K, did she post the ad? No, not to my knowledge. So how was she going to platform it? She has a YouTube page with her. She has a YouTube page with over 1 million subscribers at this point. So I expected her to do a video on it. You think she's going to put out a video about having sex in front of kids on YouTube? No. I think she was going to discuss the situation. She was going to say she was going to like it on Twitter and then send them to the likes. Quite possibly, this was Milagro saying this. Like what you did with the Megan video. Because once again, Tasha, it doesn't matter necessarily what happened or did it. It's the fact that this person is involved in this. So I definitely at least expected her to talk about it. So that's why I reached out to her because I felt like you would go and talk about this. Here go the question. Because you thought she had the same rules as you, which is it doesn't matter if it's true or false. If it's famous, we'll get to talk about it and say who knows. Miss Dixon. Objection, the witness. I think it's because she understands what a lot of us do in the business, which is something happens to a particular person, the audience wants to hear about it. And so you discuss it. There's, and then she stutters. And then Mr. Sullivan says, okay. And then Milagro says, I'm sorry. And then he says, you think that's okay? The world should be like that? It can be a lie. Oh, let me rewind because he cusses. It can be lie your ass off, talk as much as you want. If they're famous and it's interesting, let's throw it out there, repeat it, and let them deny it. Here go Milagro. No, I don't think that. I just think that we are living in a world where celebrities have a lot of influence over our communities. So it is important to discuss what is happening. Question, even lies? Why should we discuss something that never happened? Because some Yahoo in the middle of nowhere just made it up? Why does that make it relevant? Because someone put out a lie. Here go Milagro. Well, I don't get to determine what is relevant because the social media and what they make trend determines what is relevant. But even if it wasn't Megan in the video, like I stated in some of my tweets, AI is a problem. So even if it wasn't about the video, then she needs to sue whoever made the video. What the person that put it online, Bimbella itself promoted it. They hosted it. The person that hosted it on Twitter is the actual link. They posted it. So me saying go to my likes when you have a website hosting it, when you have the person and not even attempting to go after these people is interesting. Question. Did Tasha K say that to you? No. Did she say, why don't you go after the person that made the Craigslist ad? Leave me alone? No. And then it says, question. I just want to talk about it. Did they say that to you? Milagro. No. Question. That's would really be that's the same as your position, though, right? I didn't make it. I'm just going to talk about it. Here go Milagro, right? And she and had she talked about it, then that would have been her prerogative. And I would have had to accept it because I would had to have some type of notoriety. There's nothing we can do about that. Question. Has any lawyer ever told you that's the real world? Like that's actually the law? Miss Dixon. Objection. That assumes facts not in and then Mr. Sullivan. Why do you think that, Miss Dixon? I mean, that's actually not true. It's a mischaracterization of the law. Mr. Sullivan. Why do you think that's okay? That you can excuse stuff like at least on paper it's illegal by saying that it's our culture. Here go Milagro. I don't. I'm not saying anything is okay. All I'm telling you is that I feel like you are focusing on the video itself, then trying to make it a focal point and saying that that's what it's about. Question. I'm focusing on promoting the video. And then she says, right. If it's just sat and nobody ever watched it, that's one thing. As the more people say, hey, look at this. Go look at my thing. That has an immediate effect, right? You don't unsee that, right? Here go Milagro. For me, that's not my focal point. My focal point is a celebrity that a celebrity is tied to something and it happened. Let's discuss what is happening. But it didn't happen, right? In this case, it did happen because the video was put out, regardless if, and then here you go. Oh, I see the underlining thing, but it's a lie and it's fake, but it's out there. Once again, that's not my focal point. My focal point is that, and he says, okay, it's attached to her name. And it says, okay, so I think the judge is going to decide if this case, whether that's okay. Miss Dixon, absolutely. Mr. Sullivan, okay, what is next? Miss High can we play the clip? It says the video clip was played. All right. Okay, so let me scroll. It says, all right, on this page 4 of this, well, first of all, you just heard that video recording, that audio recording. It says, was that you in the recording? She said, yes. And this is 50. Hypatia says 3. Mr. Sullivan said, this is 53. They said, okay, that's you. And you said everything that we heard there on what platform and what setting? I believe that was YouTube. Okay. And you were talking about the fact that all these questions you asked were answered by a sworn declaration that said bullets are in evidence, the castings are in evidence, the gun is in evidence, right? You acknowledged that eventually. Okay, so now they're talking about Tory Lanez shooting. It says that some things were addressed. Yes, this is Milagro saying this. It says the court reporter requested clarification. The witness addressed, I'm sorry, Mr. Sullivan. It says, okay, some things that you said, there's no bullets and there's no casings and there's no nothing. And then all of a sudden, the guy who's in charge of the evidence locker says it's right here. Yeah. Well, I think it's really important to note that TMZ and other outlets at the court said that the bullet fragments was missing, not me.
A few moments later.
When I went to trial, they said the bullet fragments was missing. And then it says, question. I think we talked earlier about the fact that everybody in the courtroom saw the evidence, right? Maybe you weren't there that day. And question. I was there that day. And he says, okay, did you see the x-ray? And then she said, I saw the x-ray. And it says, did you see the testimony about metallic fragments? She said, yes, I did see that testimony. And he says, okay. And who said something was missing? Here go Milagro. I don't recall. She said, I don't recall exactly who said it, but I recall it being said in court that bullet fragments was missing. And prior to that, from the preliminary hearing, actually, that's what it was. The preliminary hearing. Detective Stoner said they were missing, I believe. Okay, but they were at trial, and it says they weren't. And here go Miss Dixon. Objection. Mr. Sullivan says, excuse me, you didn't need, and it says the best evidence is the transcript. So you should just, and then he says, these are trial objections, counsel. That's what Mr. Sullivan says. Miss Dixon says no, but you should look, and then Mr. Sullivan says, these are not deposition objections. Miss Dixon says she can't tell what was at trial. The transcript says that. Alexa, Alexa, you hard headed. Y'all give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Uh, it says Mr. Sullivan says your objection is noted. Miss Dixon says, okay, so you are mischaracter. What the fuck? Oh, my other damn Lexa going off. Okay, let's continue. You are mischaracterizing. Where am I? At? What was said at trial because the transcript doesn't say what you were saying. Your objection is noted. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Okay, and what we just listened to, you said something changed. I've now seen, right, under penalty of perjury, the person who has personal knowledge saying the stuff is all in her possession, right? You acknowledge that. Yes. And you said, had I seen that before, I wouldn't have said what I said, right? Milagro. If had seen that before, I would have reported on that because the preliminary transcript existed, so that happened. So it was stated that bullet fragments were missing. All right. So you are saying you can say, make your own interpretation as truth until somebody officially denies it to you? Milagro. No, what I'm saying is Detective Stockner testified under oath that bullet fragments were missing. It was widely reported by every major outlet in media. I reported on it after the fact, and nothing contradicted that there was never an insertion until this. Question. But this was just made to contradict your false reporting, right? That's the whole point of this, Miss Dixon. Objection mischaracterizes the witness. I couldn't say that because once again, many people were repeating, saying, following the trial. Many people were reporting on this, so I wasn't Mr. Sullivan. And some person lies, and then everyone says, "Oh, the other person lied too," and we can all lie. Is that what the rule is? No. Logro. No, but I would hope that Detective Stockner didn't lie on the stand. Question. Well, the jury believed him, right? Milagro. He did not go to trial, actually. Question. The jury believed the evidence. Let me ask you a question. Did you think Milagro? No, Megan, no. Do you believe? And it says, are you saying that Megan lied about being shot? Here go Milagro. I'm saying I don't know. And he said, yes or no. What happened to her? He said, all right. You don't know either way? Milagro. No, I don't know. Question. Okay, so if you're telling people that she lied when she said she was shot, you don't have a basis for that. A factual basis? Milagro. If I told people that I think she's lying, I don't know what happened. I think there's been enough contradictory things presented to say maybe. Question. I'm just saying if a jury hears all the evidence, right? Milagro. Uh-huh. Under the rules with the court and concludes that she was shot by Tory. What do you have on the other side besides questions to say she's lying? Miss Dixon, objection. It's a compound question. The witness, well, at the end of the day, Mr. Sullivan, questions are not evidence. Milagro. Juries are not perfect. And I think that evidence of what is the Central Part 5 and the thousands of black men that have been released after a court found that they are not guilty of a crime. So I understand that the jury reached a verdict and I respect it, but I do not agree with it. And I feel like I have enough reasons to say, hey, I don't think it's right. It should be looked at again. Question, as an opinion? Milagro, as an opinion, yes. Not as a fact, Milagro, never as a fact. Okay, here you say, actually, I'm going to have to get off my phone. There's something that I want to say, but I can't say it. So meet me on Discord. Do you remember what you talked about on Discord? Okay, they getting into it, bitch. Milagro says, I don't. Here they go. When I'm speaking about Tory's case, people have their own ideas of things. So I didn't want them to make my words his. So I didn't want to do that publicly. I wanted to do it in a more private space. So sometimes I would maybe an extension of this conversation and go and give my opinions or talk with the public and see what they thought, bounce ideas, anything like that. Question. And why would it be that that's okay to say on Discord but not on Twitter? I mean not on YouTube. Milagro. Because as someone who is the person giving commentary, people are listening. They may take this or that and make it a thing. So if you don't want to add to it, that's not your goal. Then don't even put it out there for consumption, basically. So I question, what's an example of something you would be comfortable saying to a smaller group but not to all of your followers? So in this instance, I personally felt that it was really convenient that all of a sudden this was asserted. So I might go online and say, what do y'all think about it? I don't want it to be a public thing to make it look like I'm trying to be combat combat it because I've acknowledged it here, but I did want to discuss it some more and see what people thought. So we just went on Discord to talk about it. All right. So you got evidence that the evidence was really there, and you publicly said, well, I have to acknowledge this. So let's go on to another channel, and I'm going to try to undermine and say maybe it's not true. Why is it so like create doubt, right? Here on Milagro. No, Discord is, like I said, a community space, and I'm not quote unquote on. I'm not performing when I'm getting on Discord. So it's more for me to be able to just talk more like regularly. Question. I still don't understand in this setting about the Tory case and about the evidence what you are talking about. What could you say on Discord? You saying you don't remember what you said, right? Milagro. I don't remember. But my point is that when I'm streaming live, anything I say can be taken by the public and then, oh, she said this, she said that. If I don't even want that, don't give it to them. So I just wanted to talk with the community. Like I said, it's a community space. I want to know what they think too. I don't believe that Station Head is a place for that. So I took it to Discord. You take everybody else's business to Discord, and you take everybody's business to Station Head. What the fuck are you talking about? Anyway, that's my opinion, y'all. That's my opinion. Let's continue. All right. And reading the last paragraph, and it's saying, you better shut your mouth and shut up. Are you crazy? Does that give you any clue as to what you were going to bring up on the Discord that you couldn't bring up on YouTube? No, I just think it's me just saying out loud, like, just move on. Like, don't, not in this space. Like, don't sit out here and give it there. Like, give topics there. Question. It sounds like you are encouraging them. This is going to be really juicy. Come listen on Discord, right? Milagro. No, it's like your friends. It's like peers. It's a chat room. So, hey, let's go chit chat. Uh-huh. Okay. And then it says, Mrs. Sullivan, 54. Okay, here you go, counsel. For the record, I've marked in Exhibit 54 a one-page document. It appeared to be a post from a Milagro Mobsboro. Exhibit 54 was marked as for identification. Mrs. Sullivan, Miss Cooper, do you recognize what I've marked as Exhibit 54? Yes, I do. Is that a post by you? Yes. Okay, first line, read that. It says, was Megan Thee Stallion caught trying to deceive the courts again? The answer is yes if you ask her former cameraman, Emilio Garcia. So here she go. Oh, child. It says, uh-huh. What are you so it says what are you saying was Megan's deception of the court the first time she's doing something again? How did she deceive the court the first time? Or does it relate to the Tory case? Here go Milagro. So for me, I said courts with an S. For me, the court and the courts, that's a system. So when I say the courts, you have the courthouse, you have the people there, you have the police department, you have everybody working in tandem. And so when I'm saying, was she trying to deceive the courts again? Megan lied too many times leading up to, and then it says question. I get it. But just to go literally what you said, that's what I meant. Okay, I just want to dig. Are you saying put aside your definition of courts to conclude the whole world? To it says the court itself. Are you saying there was a prior occasion where Megan deceived the court in actual court? Here go my log roll. No. Question. All right. So you want people to interpret this to mean that if she's ever told a white lie or any lie or anything in her life, that's deceiving the court? Are you counting that? Milagro. No. I was just basically asking if, based on the fact that she's lied before to people in position, authority, you said courts. That's under oath. That's different. Here go Milagro. Right. Question. That's a crime. Milagro. Well, for me, when I said courts, I meant the system. I do feel like everyone works together in a way. The police department, the actual court lawyers. Question. Why didn't you just say that where you referring to? I did. You said courts. He put quote unquote courts. Milagro. That's what I meant. Question. Lying to a court, deceiving a court is a crime. You are accusing her of a crime. That has bigger consequences in a case like this than saying she lied in an interview about her sex life. Those are two different things. You get that, right? Milagro. That's why I said courts and not the court. Because if I was speaking directly to had the had she deceived the court, then that would have been specific. For me, she's been deceptive to everyone in the process leading up to everything. I feel like, question, everywhere but the court, maybe. Is that what you should have said? Milagro. I don't know that. I said the courts. Question. You're not even sitting here today. Well, hold on. It says you're not, and then it says slash. Even sitting here today, you can't say she deceived the court, right? She didn't lie under oath. You just told me you can't say that, right? Milagro, I can't assert that. Okay, Mr. Sullivan, what is next? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's fine. 55. Exhibit 55 was marked for identification. Okay, Miss Cooper, you testified earlier that you did attend the Tory Lanez shooting trial, right? Yes. And you went every day? Yes. And how long was the trial? I believe it was 2 weeks. Okay. And you mentioned that you had an exchange with Tory himself on the first day, yeah? Uh-huh. He said they're going to make me a monster, and you said no. Milagro said no. I'm sorry. What did you say back to them? No, they won't. Milagro, something to that effect. And then this is when he said, okay, and did you have any other than saying hello and goodbye? Did you have any exchanges with Tory himself during the trial? You were in there every day, right? I was in the courtroom with media. No, I don't believe so. Bitch, you a motherfucking lie. You are a motherfucking lie. You a motherfucking lie. Again, we have audio clips of you saying I didn't go in with the public. You have fucking Armand Wiggins publicly streaming saying that these are the fucking things that you fucking said. Okay, anyway, oh Lord. I couldn't be no lawyer because I'll be up in there cutting the fuck up. I swear to God, I couldn't be no lawyer. I'll be cutting up, y'all. Okay, calm down, Cody. Let's repeat what we said and move forward. Milagro said, I was in the courtroom with media. No, I don't believe so. Question. Okay, you took notes? Yes. And are you generally a big note taker? Yes. Okay, and we have the notebook. What is this like a journal or something? What was the physical thing you were using? Journals? Yes. Okay, and you were just sitting in there with your hand just writing notes as you go? Yes. Okay. What are other things that you take notes about? Like, do you have any other journals from over the years or different things that you've not in this way because this was the first time that I went to trial, an actual trial, and sat through, and we couldn't have electronics. So my only option was if I wanted to be able to speak to it, I had to take notes. So that's why I did it in this instance. Got it. And any special approach you had when doing this, or you just wrote down what you were observing as you went? No, I sat there. It was listening. No, she said, and it was listening and just writing. Okay, so I'm going to see. This does have a. If you flip to, sorry, it's really small, but on the bottom there's these. It says Cooper and some numbers. And I want you to go to the page that starts that ends with 665. Uh-huh. Okay. All right. And if you look on the left facing page, you see it says day 4, 1040 at the top. Yes. Okay. And then towards the bottom of that page, you see it says Dr. Hernum. 1045? Uh-huh. 2018 Cedars Sinai. Uh-huh. Ortho foot doctor? Yeah. Yes. The videographer. Counsel, can you please watch the mic? Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. And you were there and paying attention during the doctor's testimony, right? Oh, they finna get her ass, girl. Okay, hold on, y'all. And okay, so I don't got okay, so and he was talking about his examination and treatment on her foot, yeah? On Megan's foot? I believe that he was. He wasn't the actual doctor that he was described as someone who was there, but not like the main guy. But he was found by the court to be competent to give evidence about that. Yeah, I suppose, yeah. Using the rules we do know, it says, using the rules we do about what is reliable, he was allowed to address that. Yes? Milagro, yes. Okay. And there were x-ray images, right? Uh-huh. You wrote down left foot metallic foreign bodies on heel bone. Yeah? Uh-huh. Not glass, metallic. Yeah? See, this is how they got her. So if she stepped on glass, Milagro Elizabeth Cooper, why the fuck did you write down in your notebook metallic foreign bodies on heel bone? This is what he's quoting what you wrote in your black journal. Okay, let's continue. Okay, below that it says 1 foot, four metallic bodies. Do you see that? Yes. And you heard that testimony, right? Yes. Okay, did anybody suggest when the doctor was testifying and you were there that your injuries were caused by glass and not bullet fragments? Somebody asserted that? Here go Milagro. I don't believe so. Yeah, and the doctor didn't say that? Not the doctor. Okay, and did anybody testify at trial that the metallic foreign bodies weren't bullet fragments? No. So the only evidence at trial was in her foot were bullet fragments. Yeah? That was the evidence at trial? She said what was presented at trial was an x-ray. But in court, reasonable doubt is something that you should consider. And because of the pre-existing medical report where it claims she was treated for glass, and because it was stated that the bullet fragments were missing, I felt like it was still questionable. Question. But reasonable doubt is not the same as truth, right? It's the opposite. The jury, based on the evidence that they were bullet fragments, concluded they were bullet fragments and that Tory shot Megan, right? That was the conclusion of the case. Milagro, I'm an independent thinker, so I understand what the jury said. But when you have a medical report saying that someone was treated for glass, medical professionals that show up to the scene and said that were glass at the crime scene, at the crime scene. Yeah, but later when everyone looked at everything and they analyzed whether it was glass or metal, they concluded and testified in the case that it was metal. That's what was there in the hospital with the patient in her foot. Yeah. Here go Milagro. Well, we also saw video where a glass bottle fell out the vehicle. That's very possible she stepped on it. Question, but it wasn't in an examination room with the patient inside her foot, right? That was bullet fragments. That's all you heard from the evidence. Milagro. Well, a doctor did report that he treated her for glass fragments. Okay, and that doctor, uh-huh. What did he say about the bullet fragments? Milagro. The doctor said, and then that's when he said, the one you were quoting, nothing that I'm aware of. He said, okay, and so the jury accredited this evidence. Accredited this evidence. You didn't, about the bullet fragments, you still thought, I have reasonable doubt. I can go out into the world and saw that. Here go Milagro. I can't say that. She said, I can't say what the jury thought about it. But I know for me, like I said, they showed us an x-ray, but since they could not produce the bullet fragments to us, it felt like it was reasonable to ask if it even happened. If it even happened? Milagro, yes. If you don't have the bullet fragments to prove that what it was that you pulled out of her feet, then I do feel like it's fair to ask. Okay, and even fair to say out in public it was glass and not a bullet? Milagro. Well, I think it's fair to acknowledge what a doctor said, that it was a superficial wound and that he treated her for glass. And also, Megan said she stepped on glass and the glass bottle fell out of the car and she stepped on it. Here go the question. I get all that. That that happened the day of, and then when she was treated with lights and all the medical equipment and everything, the doctor made a conclusive statement about what was there, right? It's not hard to tell the difference between glass and a bullet fragment, right? Here go Miss Dixon. Objection, that calls for an expert opinion. The witness, well, to me, and then that's when he says, anyway, you choose to not credit the testimony of the doctor who said these are bullet fragments. You choose not to credit that. And then that's when Milagro said, I did credit it because I reported it. Okay, okay. Is there anything? And he said, strike that. Mr. Sullivan was like, I need to speed up here. I'll just do one of these. 58, please. The court reporter, 56. And it says, oh, Sullivan, I'm sorry, 56, Miss Dixon. I'm going to object to this for the lack of foundation in Mr. Sullivan said, okay, counsel, I know that maybe you don't do this every day, but this is not an appropriate objection. It's a civil deposition, Miss Dixon. I understand, Mr. Sullivan. Oh, baby, wait a minute. Let me go back. Was that shade? Baby, that was some shade right there, in my opinion. He says, counsel, I know that maybe you don't do this every day, but this is not an appropriate objection. It's a civil deposition. That was shade right there. But anyway, let's continue. You can raise it at trial. He's telling her she can raise objection at trial. Okay, so let's go further. Miss Dixon says you can do them just to preserve it. It doesn't mean she can't answer it, but obviously she doesn't know how to read an X-ray, so I'm just objecting on it. Mr. Sullivan, you don't even know what I'm going to ask her, counsel. Anyway, you are talking about, and then Mrs. Dixon, if you're going to show her an X-ray, she's not qualified to read an X-ray. Okay, okay, thank you for that, Mrs. Dixon. It's my objection, Mrs. Sullivan. It's noted. I've marked Exhibit 56, which is an X-ray, and it says it's been marked for identification. And I will ask you, Miss Cooper, that you attend the trial. Is the X-rays that you saw at the trial? And he says, strike that. Look at the images in Exhibit 56. Have you looked at all of the pages? She said, yes. And you see the sticker at the end, admitted into evidence? Yes. Okay, and you see on the first page of Exhibit 56, there appears to be some object, I'm sorry, that was described in her presence as metal on her heel. Yeah? Uh-huh. Okay, is it your belief that that's glass? I believe it's possible. You think it's possible that this item that the doctor analyzed and said is metal was glass? Here go Milagro. I believe that because they were in the car, TMZ reported that there was glass in the car. And I believe that there are metallic fragments in tinted windows. So I think it's possible it could be glass, but from a window. Maybe not a bottle of glass, but a tinted window possibly. Question. But the fact that the person actually took out the item, tested it, and said it was a bullet fragment, you still think it's glass? And here go Miss Dixon. Objection, speculation. The witness. Well, the reason why I question is because they couldn't produce the bullet fragments. And then here go, okay, for you. And then here go Miss Dixon. Objection. Just to clarify, the doctor that you are talking about is not the one that took it out. That's what we said before. I understand. Question. But you believe that whatever everyone else concluded, even today, could be she stepped on glass and wasn't shot? And then that's when Milagro said, who is everyone else? Question. You are putting that out there even today, right? Milagro said, what? Question. Are you still saying that Megan's injuries were caused by stepping on glass? Milagro. What I'm saying is, I don't know what happened, and I think that it should be reevaluated. Question. You don't know what happened, but you have said a lot about what happened, right? Milagro. I said a lot about the evidence that's been presented and her contradictory statements. Okay. And then Mr. Sullivan said this is going to be 57, Exhibit 57. Okay, I've marked as Exhibit 57 a 3-page document. It's got an amended in evidence sticker on the last page. And I'll ask you to look at all 3 pages. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Were you paying attention in court the day that this report was presented into evidence? Yes. Okay. And do me a favor. What is the preoperative diagnosis? This is Milagro. Gunshot wound, bilateral lower extremities. And about what is the post operative diagnosis? It says same. And you heard that evidence. Yeah? Milagro says yes. Okay, go down. It says intraoperative findings. What is the first intraoperative finding? And it says, this is Milagro, 3 major bullet fragments. And it says, okay, and then go down to the next section and it says specimens. Do you see that? Uh-huh. What does it say there? It says fragment time 3. 2 from left, 1 from right. Okay, and did you see something there to make you think that people who put this in were lying? And then here go him. Yes or no? I saw something here that made me question it. Did you have anything that made you think they were lying? That somebody actually falsified a medical record and put it into evidence under oath? Yeah, I thought that the 5 millimeters of blood was really low, considering that the injury was supposed to be. Okay, anything about the bullet fragments that you thought was a lie? That you had a basis to call a lie? I questioned this, and then it says, no, not question. Did you have a basis, an affirmative basement to call it a lie? That's a factual thing, not questions. Milagro, right. There was a contradictory medical report. So I was curious as to which one I should believe. One report said she was treated for a glass wound. So I didn't know what to believe at this point. Question, she wasn't. That report is not in evidence, right? Milagro, it was not in evidence, but it was never refuted. Question, why? Why are things kept out of evidence usually? Milagro, I couldn't answer that, Mrs. Dixon. Objection, speculation, and then you have, I'll be butchering the hell out of his name. Mr. McLamont. McMillan. I call him McLemeth. But anyway, he also objected. He said objection to form. It says, okay, maybe because it's unrelatable. And she said, I couldn't say. He says, wouldn't you want to know that when you were out in public saying things about what really happened, wouldn't you want to know if the thing that you relying on has been excluded because it's not reliable? It doesn't meet the reliability necessary to be true. I think that we have come to find that there are a lot of interesting things taking place with people associated with this person. Question. It's a pretty general statement. Megan Pete. That's what Milagro says. Question. A lot of interesting things take place with a lot of people. Milagro. Yeah, I feel like with claims coming from Desiree's daughter, why are you bringing up Desiree's daughter in this deposition? What this got to do with it? But anyway, let me continue. Yeah, I feel like with claims coming from Desiree's daughter, with some of the things that happened, that it's very possible that who knows? Okay, anything is possible, right? Let them deny it. Oh, who was the person you just mentioned? Desiree? Yes. What is the full name? Milagro says Desiree Perez. Have you ever spoken to her? Milagro says no. Have you ever spoken to any member of her family? And she says yes. And he says, which one? She says, her daughter, Demoree. What's her name? Demoree. How many times have you spoke? Oh, bitch, here goes some fucking tea. How many times have you spoken to Demoree? She said that she's spoken to Demoree a handful of times. Was this most recent time? She says, I couldn't say. She says, that's the first time I heard that noise in a deposition. I'm sorry. No, it's good. It says a few months ago. And it says, what were the circumstances? I interviewed her. I was set to interview her. And did you in fact interview her? Yes. All right. And so when was the first time you spoke to Demoree? I don't recall. How did you connect with her? Instagram? Who reached out to who? So she's saying her husband sent me a message and I didn't feel comfortable speaking with her husband, so I wrote her. And what did the message from the husband say? I don't recall what it said, but it had something to do with her allegations, like what he was claiming. The husband of Desiree's daughter reached out to you? Yes. And said something about allegations? Did he tell you what he wanted to talk about or why he was talking? Milagro. No, he didn't want to talk to me. I believe it was just a message about some things she had posted. It was my blog page. So I think maybe he wanted me to repost just maybe something she posted or something like that. And did you do that? No. And you said you weren't comfortable dealing with the husband, right? Yeah. I didn't want to speak to him. I wanted to talk to her. Yeah. Did you ever talk to the husband? No. Okay. Then did you first talk to the daughter? No, it says, so when did you first talk to the daughter? She said, I couldn't say exactly. This year? Yes. All right. So the first and the message from the husband, was that also this year? Yes. Can you put in a timeline? Was it a few months ago, beginning of the year? All I can say is a few months, but I don't know exactly when. Now, in my opinion, you know when. You know when. That's my opinion. All right, let's continue. All right, so and did you know any of those players before the husband reached out? Did I know them? No. I mean, did you know of them? Did you know who the reference was to? When the husband said something, he said, yeah. She said, yes. By that point, yes. Okay, and what did you know about nobody at that point? I had watched an exclusive on a news station. Demoree did an interview with local news in Florida, and that was earlier this year. I don't know when she recorded, but I saw it this year. Okay, and that was before the husband reached out that I saw the interview? Yeah. Yes. All right. So you generally knew that. What is going on in this case? And then he reached out and said, I want to get you involved in this case. She said, no, he just then she stuttered because it got lines. I believe that he sent something. Maybe that he had been posted. He didn't ask me to do anything. I just feel like it was like trying to bring awareness maybe to it, but I don't remember exactly what the message said. It was just like, what was it? Like the Megan video? Something just said, hey, have you seen this? Here go Milagro. Once again, I don't remember exactly what it said, but I know that it was about what his wife had been saying. And then it says, question, it says, do you still have that message? She gonna say, I don't know. You fucking know. You motherfucking know. And let's pause this. Now, in my opinion, this is my opinion. When it comes down to the timeline, do y'all think that this was before or after the gag order? It seems like this was around the time that that gag order came out. All right, let's continue. Any reason to think you won't be able to? What how did you say Instagram? Instagram? Uh-huh. All right. Is that the kind of message that would stay there? It depends on setting. Some people do vanishing messages. What do you do? She said, I don't have one vanishing messages. So probably it's still there, right? Well, he sent it, not me, so I don't know. He could have vanishing messages on. It was his messages, not mine. Okay, and so how do you get a message like that? Does it show up on your what? You get a notification when you go on the app. All right. You're on Instagram and it says you have a message from husband of, and this is Milagro. Once again, you can change your settings. But for me, when I go on Instagram, I see the number of messages that I have, new messages, and I just kind of go through them. It doesn't tell me particularly who. Okay. And you went through and you found this message from this guy. And you said, did you actually respond to the messages? I don't believe so. How? I know you said you didn't want to talk to him, but you would have wanted to talk to the daughter of his wife. Well, you wanted to talk to the daughter or his wife. It says, how did you get connected? She said, I DM'd her on Instagram. Oh, because you knew her. Her identifier on Instagram also? Yeah, she had already been publicly speaking on her situation. Yes. Okay, so you reached out to her and tell me what that exchange was, all the way to when you got together and interviewed. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I know our conversation was centered around her case, and she wanted to do an interview and asked me if I could do one. She wanted you to interview her? Yes. About the allegations in the case. In her case, yes. In her case, all right. And did that happen? Yes, I interviewed her. Okay, when was that? I don't know the exact date, but a few months ago. Okay, no more than three. Okay, and what platform was that on? I did not publish it. Okay, literally, how, like, you guys just sat in the room and recorded it? Oh, she called me on Zoom. We did a Zoom and I recorded it on Zoom. Okay, and how long was that session? At least 2 hours. Okay, and is it done in a way that you can turn it into like an interview that would be on your one of your platforms? Yes. You did it to you were doing the interview, but you just why haven't you posted it? I did not want to come off as I was trying to agitate a situation or target anyone in particular or anything like that. So I felt like it was best I didn't. Question. And what is like, was that before or after oh, here it is. Was that before or after the gag order in this case? It says, Demoree, this interview you did, yeah. She said, I did it before her gag order because I remember she thought that it was possible she could be gagged. So she was trying to rush to do it. Okay, but were you already gagged? In my case, yes. He said, let me ask a better question. Is the reason that you have chosen not to publish or put out the interview related to the fact that you have the gag order in your current case with Megan? She says, no. He says, okay, is it related to the fact that the daughter has a gag order in her case? She says, no. It's related to me being terrified of Desiree Perez. What? Excuse me? Fucking excuse me? So now you're trying to claim that you are terrified of Desiree Perez, yet you are out here saying that the husband of Demoree sent you a DM. You never responded to him, but you immediately reached out to the daughter. You're saying that you went on Zoom, did a 2-hour interview, but you didn't publish it because you was quote unquote terrified of Desiree Perez. One, why the fuck, and this is in my opinion, y'all, why the fuck would you then go and message her? You could have just ignored the husband's message altogether. In my opinion, why would you take an extra step to then go and message Demoree, talk to her a handful times? You said a handful of times, right? Then get on Zoom and do a 2-hour motherfucking interview. But now you sitting up here talking about you scared. That's why you didn't do it. Fuck out of here. Anyway, let's continue. It says, okay, so the interview is in a you've got it preserved and you can play it at any time, but for now, you are choosing not to go public with it. She said, it's recorded. Yeah, yeah, it's recorded. He says, okay, have you talked to a lawyer about that interview? Legal risk for you? And that's when she says, I spoke to her lawyer. And he says, Desiree's daughter or the daughter's lawyer? That's when she said, Demoree's lawyer. And he said, Demoree, how do you spell her name? That's when she says, Demoree. Now, this is his question. And what did Demoree's lawyer say to you about the interview or about anything? That's when Mr. McLemmon says, objection to privileged information. And she said, privileged, how do you say it? And that's when Sullivan says, is this privilege between Demoree's lawyer and Mrs. Cooper? And that's when Miss Dixon says, where are your, and then that's when Mr. McLemmon, he chimes in and says, whatever was said between the two of them, it if it was said for the purpose of providing legal advice, then it's privileged. Mr. Sullivan, no, it's not privileged if someone other than the lawyer and the client are in the conversation. The witness, the lawyer did not want to speak if my lawyer wasn't there. So actually, he waited until my lawyer could be present. And we all were present for the conversation I had with him about this. He says, got it. And you were there and your lawyer was there, right? On the phone? She said on the phone. He said, okay. Who was your lawyer? And oh, at the time, I was still under, I believe, Unite the People. So you were under Unite the People at the time that you spoke to Demoree about her claims? I know somebody on Lipstick Alley. Y'all know exactly the time frame about this of when it actually came down to her coming out saying that she had spoken to the girl. Y'all can post that on Lipstick Alley. Now, when it comes down to Pacer, let's put this in perspective because, as y'all do know, at beck and call, I can pull up any goddamn court document. So let's take a pause and let's go actually look at when this lawsuit started. Because to her knowledge, she claimed that it's been 3 or 4 months that she had actually spoken to her. So let's go and look. So let me do a little of this and a little of that. Date filed. Okay, y'all give me 1 second. Okay, and there it is right there. Boom, bam. Hello. Okay. So the court filing was on May the 9th. This is when she filed her complaint against Desiree Perez, May the 9th. Now, go piggyback. When did she actually lose counsel? Because if y'all do not recall, on June the 4th, she was supposed to have had her deposition, which she had then pushed back, right? From June the 4th to supposed to have been July the 1st, remember? At that time, that's when she didn't have counsel. And when did they leave? If I'm not mistaken, when United People left, if my memory is right, wasn't it May the 27th, somewhere around that time, that she lost counsel with Unite the People? And then before that, she had lost Michael A. Pensier. If my memory's right. Yep. See, y'all know May the 27th. I know that date. Okay. So you're telling me that you haven't spoken to her in 3 to 4 months. So are you saying that you talked to her? Like if we put the time frame right, you spoke to her in April or May. Is that what you're saying? But the case didn't come out until May. So we'll have to pinpoint that time frame because it wasn't up until a few months ago, let's say last month, month and a half ago, before she actually got the gag order. That's when she actually started going live with certain people. I mean, look, hell, when it came down to her going on Twitter, getting with Tasha K and other bloggers, when was the time frame that she got with Milagro? So we'll need to pull up that time frame, but I do know May the 27th. That was the day that it actually happened. Okay, let's continue. I get it. That doesn't change the privilege calculation. So you were there with your lawyer, right? Uh-huh. And Demoree was on the call with your lawyer. Yes. Okay. That's not a privileged conversation. So tell me what was said. Miss Dixon, I'm go to object based on privilege because I'm the lawyer that was on the phone. Pause. Miss Dixon, how were you the lawyer on the phone at that time that they spoke? And she just said that she lost Unite the People. So how are you the lawyer on the phone if we can all conclude it wasn't until that Friday that's when y'all got sworn in, you and Jeremy. So after June the 4th, that was when that discovery hearing happened. It was that Friday. Okay, that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion, right? See, when you pay attention, see, okay, that's my opinion, y'all. That's my opinion. So he says, I understand. And then Miss Dixon says, I'm going to object, Mr. Sullivan. But you are a smart lawyer. And you know that if you are on a call with your client and someone who is not your client, and that person was not your client's lawyer, Miss Dixon says, and a lawyer, I wasn't on Demoree. She said, I wasn't on. Demoree wasn't on the call. It was the lawyer, Mr. Sullivan. I'm going to ask a different question. Did you have an arrangement with Demoree that you were had a common interest? You were working together on a case, like an agreement to keep privilege together? Objection! Any kind of arrangement that said we're all on the same team, and that's when Miss Dixon says privilege, and the witness says no. He says, okay, did anyone say on that call that it was subject to attorney-client privilege? I don't recall. Okay, what was said on the call? Objection. It's attorney-client work product in privilege. He says, you can answer. She says, I can answer. He said, you can answer. What was said was just to focus on her and what she was going through in her case. All right. Well, wait. So you have Demoree's lawyer, which is you, Rhonda? I'm not Demoree's lawyer. Okay. He says, who was on for Demoree? Her lawyer. And you do know what that is? And she says, no, I am sorry. A man or a woman? She says, a man. Miss Dixon says, can I answer? His name was Napoleon Hamilton. He says, Napoleon Hamilton? He says, okay. So he says, Napoleon Hamilton's on there. Demore is on there, and you are on there, and somebody for you. And do you know who the person for you was? I believe it was Rhonda. Like I said, my representation was changing, and I don't remember the exact date we spoke. Really? In my opinion, I feel like somebody's lying. Because if she wasn't sworn in until that week, that Friday after that, June the 4th, then what are you talking about? One of one, yes, this is Milagro Elizabeth Cooper's deposition. Let's go back down to the time frame. So they had this on June the 4th, which was on a Wednesday. June the 6th was around the time that they were sworn in and saying, hey, this is my legal representation. Local legal counsel was Jeremy. And then later on, that's when she had got Rhonda Dixon. So are you telling me that They had a conversation before that. But wasn't it just May the 27th that she lost Unite the People? And how don't you remember that? That's something, in my opinion, I would remember that. But again, all right, some lawyer was on there for you. Absolutely, yeah, because he couldn't, he said he wouldn't talk without a lawyer. Okay, how long did the conversation last? Less than 30 minutes? It was quick. Less than 30 minutes? It says, right. Maybe less than 20, less than 15. It was quick. Okay, and did everyone speak? I believe it was more so the lawyer just outlining things. So tell me what they outlined to just stay focused. Which one? Her lawyer just wanted to make sure that I understood what I could ask her and what the interview would be about, basically. And literally, what did he say about that? Napoleon, about what you could ask her and what it would be about. Milagro, that it was basically highlighting what her case was about and just saying this is what is going on. So whatever you ask it, should be related to these things, her claims. Okay, so is that how the conversation started? Here, thank you for coming. Here is what you can ask, and here is what you can't. Milagro. No, he didn't say like you can ask this, you can ask that, but he just basically reiterated what the case was about and like kind of was just giving me bullet points and asking this is the focus. Got it. All right. And then what did you say? And I said, "Okay, I can do that." And did her lawyer talk? I don't recall. Did Demoree talk? I don't believe so at the time. It was more about her lawyer. All right. Quick call about bullet points. And you said, I can do that. Yes. All right. Have you subsequent conversations with them? With the lawyer for Demoree? No. Was the lawyer there for the Demoree interview? I don't believe so, but I couldn't say. Cause you guys were on Zoom? Right. And I only saw her on screen. All right. And have you been in touch since you did that interview? No. Have you been in touch with her lawyer since you did that interview? No. Did you know if her lawyer has been in touch with your lawyer since that interview? I do not. Okay. Miss Hypetian, can we pull up tab 20 B1 audio? Assistant B1, 20B1? She says yes, 20B1. Thank you. Which would I believe be exhibit 58A? It's 58A? Well, 58? Uh-huh. 58A, and that is 58B, the transcript. So for 28, for 20B1, I have that just as like a PDF file. It says, do you mean 20A1? Ms. Hypetian, yes, sorry, 20A1. Assistant, okay. Ms. Dixon, where is the transcript? What's the number? Sullivan, the transcript is exhibit 58. Dixon, and the video was 20A? Sullivan, those are just internal numbers. That's going to be confusing. I would go by these. Miss Dixon, okay. I think we can playing. And they played a video clip. And then it says, all right. Did you say all of that that we just heard? She says, yes. Okay. You did not prove that she was shot in court, right? That's what you said. Milagro says, yes. She was, Tory was convicted of shooting her in this case, yeah? I believe so, yes. Meaning she was shot. The jury found that, yeah, Mrs. Dixon. Objection. Mischaracterization. You were there. That means that a jury objection to form as well. He says, right? In your presence, the jury entered a verdict that Tory shot Megan. Yeah. The jury decided that. Yes, okay. And this 2 years later, and you were saying no, it was never proved. Milagro. In my opinion, that case was not proven. I heard the prosecutor say the DNA did not matter. They did not show us bullet fragments, so I felt like that was enough to question things. All right. But you keep saying that. You ask questions. A lot of people ask questions. That's very different than actually asserting that something happened or someone told the truth or a lie. You get the difference, right? Milagro. That's my whole point. And I am trying to understand if you think it's okay if I have questions. Maybe I didn't read all the evidence. Maybe I wasn't there for everything. Maybe I misinterpreted something. Maybe I didn't get the full report. Whatever that is, you have questions to go from there. You think it's okay to go from there and saying somebody lied or somebody didn't prove anything? I think, and it says you are making a leap. You see that, right? She says, I don't. I don't feel like in this country we're supposed to have the freedom to speak. Well, hold on. Let me rewind that back. I don't. I feel like in this country we're supposed to have the freedom to speak. And if we have a question, regardless of if I identify with it or not, we should be allowed to ask. Even if it's damaging to the other person, and even if it's not true, and even if you didn't do the investigation you needed, you can say it even if it hurts them and no consequences. You believe that? I believe that we can pose questions, and I believe I had a valid question. Okay. And do you think asking a question is different than accusing somebody of something? She says, yes. He says, okay. And you've done both, right? She says, depending upon what you're asking about, I would need something specific. He says, okay, if you said Megan lied, uh-huh, at the trial, and she says, I do not recall saying that. He says, okay, if you said that, that's not a question, isn't it? She said, if I said that, that would be an insertion. He says, yes, okay. She says, but I don't recall saying that. He says, okay, have you made assertions about Megan that are false? She says, not to my knowledge. He says, okay, wouldn't you say that saying that Megan being shot was not proven in court is false? She says, I don't believe that's false. He says, okay, but under the system that you said in America, we live, we go to trial, we put evidence, we have rules, and juries decides, right? And if the jury enters a verdict on an indictment or criminal charges in the way that the people in the system talk about, they say it was proven. It was proven to the people who matter, the jury who saw, right? They were convinced. She says, I saw that. And I also know the systems we have, and they exist because they can be challenged. He says, I understand. But in this case, in the moment when you would either prove it or not prove it, they proved it true. True? Mrs. Dixon. Objection, objection to form. The witness, I cannot say that. That's just what the jury believed. He says, and that's who matters on this question of whether the case was proved in court. It's the conclusion of the jury, right? Mr. McLamas. Objection. The witness, right. Question. Nobody else conclusion matters? She says, but when people come to my show, they want to know what I think. He says, okay. And then now they're asking to pull up tab 10A audio. So let's see. It says that it was played and it says, all right, was you talking on the audio just heard? She says, yes. He says, all right. And that is exhibit what, 55? Court reporter says 59. He says, I'm sorry, 59. Okay. So just going to the end, it says here, you are talking about this question of how academics and some information before it even came out. Oh shit.